Hey guys, so we're back again with another reading. This one is all about your divine feminine energy. So we're going to see what kind of divine feminine energy you embody. This reading is kind of for the girls, but if you're a guy, you could still watch it and just see what kind of women you are drawn to and attracted to and would be good for you to date. Or if you want to explore your feminine side, that's cool too. Take it how it resonates for you. This was actually the 4th or 5th runner-up over on Patreon. It was suggested by Lydia, so thank you, Lydia. And that just shows how great the readings we do over on Patreon are. If you like this reading, there are so many like them over on Patreon, over 65. And I just posted one all about your past lives and how that's affecting your current love life. So exploring your romantic life and other lifetimes and how that affects your ability to love or your romantic tendencies in this lifetime. It's a really deep one. And if you want to check that out, go to the link underneath the timestamps in the comments and the description. And like I said, as soon as you sign up, you'll get access to all my readings. So all 65 readings about love, career, money, friendship, family, spirituality, just so many topics under the sun. So if you want to join us, head to that little link for Patreon. So with all that being said, if you are new to my channel, welcome. Basically, you're going to see which of these cards is sticking out to you, calling your name, drawing your attention. And then as soon as you've made up your mind, you can just scroll down to the timestamps and the comments and the description and jump into your pile. So let me show you the pile numbers. This is pile 1, then we have pile 2, pile 3, and finally pile number 4. I also want to mention that I do private readings. So if you like how I read tarot and you want my undivided attention and you want to ask me a specific question about your life, then you can go to my website, briarrosetarot.com, and you can get a pre-recorded or a live reading, half-hour long or a full hour-long session, have me pull tarot for you, channel for you, do mediumship, or do astrology. You get to really choose how your session goes, what kind of techniques you want me to use to channel information for you. So if you want that, like I said, go to my website, briarrosetarot.com, and I'm happy to do a session for you. So with all that being said, you guys, if you need more time to decide, you can totally feel free to rewind, pause, and take as much time as you need. But we're gonna go ahead and jump into pile 1. Hey pile 1, welcome to your reading. So if you guys picked this crystal and this card, this is going to be your reading. So you guys got the Word Lord, communication, praise, dishonesty, and the Desert Prince, survival, false promises, the Resting Tree, patience, stillness, and the Sacred Union, partnership and romance. So I am seeing in my mind a princess in a tower, and I also feel like you could fit that archetype of kind of like the quiet girl in the corner studying, but all the guys are like checking her out. I feel like there's something about you that's very remote and removed. Like you're not trying to be the center of attention. You're not wanting all eyes on you. And yet people are drawn to you in spite of that. And even because of that, it's almost like the more mysterious you are and the less you give of yourself, the more desperate people are for your energy, the more curious people are, and the more they want to know about you. I also feel like you come off very smart. So it's almost like people would want you to be their girlfriend or their long-term relationship because they can see your intelligence. They don't think of you as just a quick, like, oh, that would be a fun night, but actually as someone they could sit and have really long, in-depth conversations with. There's a deep wisdom about you. I also feel like you could fit into the archetype of like this sage. What I'm seeing also in my mind is the High Priestess. And what I love about the High Priestess is she has this deep internal dignity. She's not necessarily trying to get attention, but she has this deep power because of her status. And she doesn't get her status through relationships or through sexuality, but she actually gets her status through her knowledge and through her spiritual wisdom. So I feel like you have a lot of people who actually really respect you and put you up on a bit of a pedestal, and that could work both ways. Sometimes you might have people who are really like jealous of you, and by the other token, you might have people who really dream of being in a relationship with you. I do feel like you might provoke jealousy from other women because they kind of wonder like, how is pile 1 getting this attention, and they're not even trying for it. They're not having to wear anything low cut. They're not having to seek out these relationships. They're not having to flirt and giggle and laugh. They're kind of being cold and probably not even talking and being like, oh, no thanks, I don't want to drink, you know, if they're at a party. And yet all the guys are like looking over at them, and all the guys want to talk to them, and the guys will ask me about them and be like, hey, what's pile 1's deal? They seem kind of cool, but I didn't talk to them. And people are wondering like, how does pile one do this? How does pile one command attention? It's kind of reminding me of like Rory in Gilmore Girls, how she was like pursued by all these different guys, even though she was kind of like shy and nerdy and she wasn't trying to get that attention. But the guys, the more she didn't want that attention, the more they were like wanting to give that to her. So I feel like for you, you definitely provoke that in people. There's something kind of unknowable about you and something kind of like you keep things to yourself. Like you might not be that person to overshare when you're first meeting someone or tell them all the details about you. You might be that person that really doesn't say much and really kind of keeps yourself mysterious and keeps yourself at a bit of an emotional distance. Or even there might be something where like you're not texting people a lot. Like maybe they text you and you don't get back to them for a few hours or even like a day or so. And then when you do, like you're going to be, nice, but you're not going to be like overly friendly or like desperate to hang out. So I feel like you definitely are a little bit of a challenge, and that brings out like almost this competitive spirit in men and makes them want to rise up to the occasion. They also think that you would make an amazing girlfriend. There's something about you that feels almost like a fantasy. I feel like, yeah, the princess up in the tower is a perfect example of that, because you can admire her, you can say how beautiful she is, and you can see that, but you don't really get to know her, right? You can't have a conversation with her, you can't be close to her and really touch her, but you can see her from a distance. And I feel like that's the vibe, and that's why so many fairy tales are about a princess in a tower, because I think that's a really powerful archetype for women, is that woman that isn't trying to reveal everything, isn't trying to tell all her business, and yet she's still so captivating and people just can't get enough. Let's get into some tarot for pile one. So we got the Ace of Swords, Wheel of Fortune, Eight of Pentacles, the Tower card, and the Lovers. So the Lovers is very similar to the Sacred Union card. So it makes perfect sense that it's come out twice, because again, I feel like a lot of people actually would like to have long-term relationships with you. They're not just fantasizing about like, oh, I'd love a one night thing with pile one, or it'd be cool to go on a date with them once, but they really think you would make an amazing partner, partially because you are so quiet and you are mysterious and you're not someone who, they also feel like kind of like you're hard to get. And I feel like that makes you a good partner in the sense that like they wouldn't have to worry about you cheating on them, because you're probably so unimpressed by the majority of people that there's no chance that you would end up cheating with some random at like a bar, so it's almost like, oh, pile one would be that beautiful, loyal girlfriend, and also just someone I could really trust and turn to and kind of like look up to. Like, I feel like if you were in a relationship, people project that you would give amazing advice. You would have such beautiful, divine, feminine wisdom. We got the Ace of Swords as well. And the Ace of Swords is also a very highly intelligent card. So they might really feel like you have very brilliant insights, that when you do talk or you are going to give your opinion on something, that it is just amazingly smart and intelligent. And I feel like that makes you very interesting. We also have the Wheel of Fortune, which is ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter is the planet of wisdom. So it is a very wise, spiritually wise card. So I feel like you just have this deep depth to you. And it does remind me of the High Priestess. It does remind me of that woman that serves the role in her tribe or in her culture or whatever of being a spiritual kind of portal and knowing things and just having all this knowledge. Or even like the crone in the Wiccan symbol of like the maiden, the mother, and then the crone. There's something about that kind of like older woman energy. And I'm not saying you necessarily are older, but you might give off an older vibe. You might have an energy about you that's always felt deep, and there's always been a depth to you. Even when you were young, you might have been one of those kids that was like preternaturally precocious and grown and just knew a lot or had a lot of knowledge, or you had adults being like, oh, how did you learn that word? Or like, wow, your child is very smart. Or, they noticed this thing, and like, goodness, they're very observant. But I feel like there's something about you that seems very deep. You might be spiritually older. You might have older energy when it comes to your astrological chart. So the part of the chart that is at the very tail end. So starting with Sag and then Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, you might have a lot of placements in the older energies of the chart and lived a lot more lifetimes on this planet, because it just seems like people can really turn to trust you. And it does feel like even though you don't speak a lot, when you do speak, people really tend to listen. They do respect you, and they do think that what you have to say is valuable. And it's kind of like, oh, pile one is actually speaking. They're speaking up, they're saying something, let's all turn and listen. It's reminding me of this movie I watched, Peggy Sue Got Married. And in the movie, there's like this guy in the back of the class, and he never talks, and he's kind of like this bad boy, but he grows up to be a very famous writer and a very famous poet and novelist. And it's reminding me of that, because even though all the guys were like, oh, he's a nerd, he's a geek, and they kind of hated him, all the girls were super drawn and attracted to this guy because of his depth. There's also something deeply romantic about someone who's very intelligent, someone who could write poetry, someone who is thinking of things not just on a physical level, but on a deep spiritual level. People might imagine that even getting to, I don't know, sleep with you or just be with you would be a spiritual connection. It wouldn't just be a physical thing, because I don't feel like you just do only physical things. And I also feel like they see you as someone who would be very loyal. Like I said, I don't think they think that you would cheat on them a ton. We got the Eight of Pentacles, which is kind of like a stick to it type energy. So they feel like there's something also reliable, dependable about you. Like you're not necessarily that flighty energy that you're gonna be like, oh, sorry, I met someone at the beach bar and I left you, but you know, we had a great run, thanks. You feel like you would be so loyal and you wouldn't necessarily leave them, because you're the kind of person that does a lot of kind of like sorting out before you ever would engage in a relationship. You know what I mean? You wouldn't be the kind of person who's into one person one moment and then the next moment you're into someone else. Like you're so picky and you do so much vetting up front that it's like if you're actually opening up and fully allowing someone into your life, then you really picked them. You know, you're not just going to let anyone around you. So I do feel like a lot of people probably crush on you, fantasize about you. There is this vibe though of intimidation that you give off. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people who do have crushes on you also are intimidated by you. So they might not be willing to actually confess their feelings and be fully upfront about exactly how deeply they feel for you. They probably would, you know, try to play it cool and dance around you because they can feel this power from you. It's almost giving me Scorpio or even Capricorn vibes. And kind of that depth and intensity, because the thing about Scorpio too is Scorpio sees people deep down into their soul. So when you're on the receiving end of it, it can kind of feel unpleasant, like you're being looked at under a microscope. They see you so much more clearly than like anyone else can. They can see all your hidden secrets, all your details. Actually, all the water signs have this ability. But Scorpio is Mars ruled, so they're kind of more outward about it, but all of it, and they really are the private detective. Like Pisces might kind of leave it be and be like, okay, I think they're hiding something. Scorpio is going to figure it out. And I feel like you give off that vibe of that intimidating Scorpio, kind of like, I don't know, I'm drawn to them, but I'm kind of afraid of them at the same time. So let's get into some more cards. We got the Psychic Abilities card, Life Purpose, Clarity, Love, and yeah, that's that for that pull. I pulled some extra cards, but anyway. So again, psychic abilities. I'm getting heavy water for you guys. I really am getting that deep spiritual energy of water and the way water can just see through to someone's core, because water is psychic ability. So when you have a lot of water placements, you're able to just read a situation, read a person effortlessly without even trying. And you're able to see through things so much more deeply than other people are. You're able to see things with deep clarity, and you don't need to have it spelled out for you. You don't need to have anyone tell you. You can just kind of read someone's emotions, read their feelings just from a quick interaction or a glance. So I feel like, again, that just adds to your kind of high priestess vibe. It's like they can feel your power. They can feel this presence. They know that you can see through deeply to their soul. And at the end of the day, isn't that what all humans crave? We all want to be seen. So in a way, I feel like it's kind of intoxicating to interact with you, because you're not just going to take someone at surface value. You're not, if they're like, yeah, I'm fine, I'm good, you're not just going to necessarily believe it if your intuition is telling you no. You might question them a little bit more, be like, okay, you're good. Okay. Well, anyway, why don't you come sit next to me and we'll just chat? And you're so good at reading people. You can read anyone like a book. You might also be that person who will notice if someone's sketchy in your friend group, or some person gives you a bad vibe and you're the first to say it, or you're the first to point it out, and your friends start realizing, like, every time pile one points that out, it ends up completely coming true. But either way, I feel like people have such respect for your psychic abilities and for your mind in general. They just think of you as someone who's really, really smart and a great reader of different situations. I'm hearing you might even have friends or family members come to you for advice on like current events. Like if something crazy is happening in the world, you might get called up by like your brother asking you like, hey, what do you think about what's going on in XY country, and what do you think is going to happen? And you might wonder, like, why are people turning to me? I'm not an expert on foreign policy, but I feel like your knowledge and the deep wisdom, the way you look at situations, not just at surface value but going so deep, is so attractive. And it really does embody this ancient feminine archetype, because throughout all cultures there have been women held up as spiritual leaders, and women who have occupied these exalted roles, whether you're talking about the Vestal Virgins, or, you know, even like nuns, or medicine women. All different kinds of divine feminine archetypes were understood to be able to access that spiritual side of things. That's why the moon is a spiritual and psychic ability, and it's feminine. Water energy in general is feminine. So I feel like people, you know, back in the day, they might have gone to you for like readings and wisdom, and now they might not actually go to you for a full-on reading, but they can feel your presence, they can feel your wisdom, and they really want to know what you have to say. And again, I think this also adds to the fact that they fantasize that being with you in a romantic context or a sexual way would be a highly spiritual experience. You wouldn't just be like going through the motions. There's literally a chance to access the divine through being in communion with you that way. It's reminding me of the divine feminine archetype of the sage, and Lisa Bonet is an amazing representation of that. And she does have that esoteric, almost witchy quality. She just seems like she would know a lot of spiritual things, right? Even her eyes, they just look like they could see through to your soul. And she also doesn't feel like that type of person who's trying to get attention. Like, I think she's basically, you know, gone away from Hollywood and not tried to be in the spotlight at all over the past few years. It seems like she doesn't need that, and yet people still get so excited whenever she goes to like a red carpet event, or whenever she makes a movie. People can't wait to see it because it's so rare, and because her presence kind of speaks volumes. It's almost like the more quiet and inward she is, the more people are like, I gotta know about her. I'm so curious. Like, who is she? And I do think she has a lot of water placements. I can't remember exactly what. I'm thinking Pisces or Scorpio, but if you look up her chart, you can see what I mean. She has a lot of water, and I feel like she has that deep presence of water where you would be a little intimidated coming up and talking to her, because you would just assume she could see all through you. So if you had any bad intentions, or if you were trying to like schmooze your way into like Hollywood, you wouldn't want to approach her to do it, right? You could probably find someone who's maybe a little more insecure, maybe someone who doesn't seem to know as much, and Lisa Bonet would not be the person you would go to. So again, I feel like a lot of people are intimidated by you and might even keep their distance, but fantasize about you from afar and think of you as someone that if they ever did get to date you, they would be so grateful. And I think it's also interesting that Lisa Bonet was married to Jason Momoa. He's a lot younger than her. I wouldn't be surprised if some of you in this pile tended to date younger partners, or partners who just really look up to you and kind of, like I said, put you on a pedestal, go to you for wisdom and advice, and think of you as their guide a little bit. Like, you're not just going to be, I feel like, that easygoing person in a couple that's just like whatever, along for the ride. It feels like you would really give wisdom to your partner and make even decisions in the relationship. You feel to me like that divine feminine role who has always guided people, who hasn't been just the like, let me relax and just chill and you can take care of it, but like you're steering the ship. So I feel like that's also something that makes people drawn to you. It's like who doesn't want to have someone in their life who's this wise and who knows so much and who can see things through with so much clarity in the way that you guys can, and be this voice. And also I feel like people project on you that you would make an amazing parent for that reason as well. Like you definitely have that kind of like mother archetype and this guide archetype. Like you would give amazing advice to your kid if they were being bullied in school, or if they were having trouble in math class with a teacher. You would know what to tell them. You would know what direction they should take and what they should do different, because your mind is so amazing. Let's get into some more cards. So we got Watchers, transpersonal, lost in space, needing direction, and deep quiet, meditation and stillness. And like I've been saying, there's something very quiet about you. There's something where you are not trying to make sure that your presence is known. Your presence is known regardless. Your presence is so deep, so unmistakable. No one could not feel your energy in the room, even if you're sitting quietly in the corner and not saying anything. We also have lost in space, needing direction. And I feel like with that, I'm definitely getting that kind of Pisces spaciness. But a lot of people who have highly psychic placements, they might space out from time to time and kind of go up on the astral plane and then come back in the space of a conversation, kind of like dissociating, you know? And so you might be talking to people, and sometimes like you're just trancing out and you're like, oh, I'm so sorry, I was listening, just can you repeat what you just said though? Because actually your mind is elsewhere. You might be getting a download, you might be kind of half in the astral plane, half here. But either way, I feel like people, again, it adds to your mysterious quality. It just makes people want to know you more, or want to know like, what are they thinking about? What's going on in their mind? I can tell they're thinking something interesting. I can tell there's a lot of depth here. I can tell that their imagination is really active, and it's not like you're just staring off into space and nothing's happening in your head. They can see that you are going so deep, and that you do have a lot on your mind, and that you are someone who knows a lot of stuff. So I feel like that just makes them more curious, and it's almost like, how do I become the center of their attention? Because their mind is clearly so amazing. Like I wish I was on the receiving end of that. So yeah, I think it just makes people more and more curious. We also got Watchers, transpersonal. And again, I do feel like you guys have a lot of admirers. I feel like you have a lot of people around you that want to know about you. You have a lot of people who are curious about you. Even if you were like the quiet girl in school or at your job, you just went in, clocked in and left, and you didn't really talk to a lot of people. I feel like you had so many people that even just would see you walking down the street and they can tell that there's something so different about you. Even your eyes, I feel like there's a lot of depth to your eyes. Like there's something about your eyes that just seems so magnetic. Like I was saying with Lisa Bonet, she has those deep eyes. A lot of water placements tend to have very watery, almost extra liquid eyes. I know it's hard to describe, but if you start looking at water signs, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. Especially Pisces tend to have kind of liquid, fishy eyes, like soft and liquid and imaginative. And then Scorpios can have a very penetrating gaze, but there's also a lot of depth there as well. It's kind of like a swampy type eye, and then maybe Pisces is like a clear Caribbean, you know, water. And then their Scorpio is a little less open, but you can see that they're perceiving so deep into you. That Scorpio gaze is so famous and iconic. So I feel like even if you're just walking down the street or like going into a 7-Eleven with someone, people would be like, who was that? That person just seems so different. They seem so unique. They seem almost otherworldly or not of this planet. They almost seem like a little bit of an alien. Like, where did they come from? They're so unusual. So yeah, I think that's something that really captures people's attention. Let me get some astrological dice for pile number 1. So we got the moon, we got Leo, and we got the 10th house, aka Capricorn, Leo, and Cancer are the signs coming through. So you guys might have those placements. Capricorn makes a ton of sense to me as well, because I think I mentioned Capricorn earlier in the reading, and Capricorn's going to have that very self-possessed, disciplined vibe. They're ruled by Saturn. Saturn is a planet of hardship, and they're just not going to be all warm and fuzzy and bubbly and trying to talk to absolutely everyone. They're not going to be that person that's just like needing to be the center of attention and craving someone to like them. It's like they're very self-possessed, they're very self-disciplined, and if you don't like like them, they're not going to lose sleep over it. And also Capricorn can be very intimidating because people can feel that energy of Saturn coming through. They can feel that depth. Capricorn also has an older energy because Saturn is an older planet. It's an older energetic vibe for a planet. It's like an old man, you know? So for Capricorns, they can give off that presence and they can seem older than their age, especially when they're younger. Sometimes that evens out in adulthood and they actually can look younger than their age, but they tend to have an older energy about them. They tend to have this vibe that they just seem very wise beyond their years because oftentimes Saturn has taught them many lessons even at a young age. So they might have more knowledge because they've been through stuff even though they're technically young. Then we have Leo. Leo rules the 5th house of children as well as creative abilities, creative hobbies. So again, I feel like people see you as very creative. They also see you as being good with children, which I mentioned earlier, and that's doubled with this moon energy, Cancer energy, which is the mom of the zodiac. But with Leo especially, it's very creative. It's very putting things out there to, you know, push the boundaries when it comes to poetry or art or writing or anything like that. Anything you put out that's purely creative is a very Leo type energy. So again, another interesting thing about Leo is that it tends to like to be the center of attention, which I think kind of contrasts with you. Like you might be that person that even though you're not trying to be the center of attention, people are just drawn to you regardless. People, just like with the sun, it is the center of the universe. People always say like, oh, it's not about Leos. And I think it's so funny because it's like, well, or the world doesn't revolve around you Leos, but the world does revolve around the sun, you know? So like, well, kind of does revolve around them. And I feel like with you guys, there's something about you that even if you're trying to be quiet, even if you're trying to just stay in the corner, people cannot help but notice you because you just command that attention. And then finally, we have the moon. The moon is that archetype of deep female wisdom. She rules over the High Priestess card, which I've been mentioning. I do feel like that's your archetype, the sage, the wise woman, the medicine woman, the person that the tribe might have gone to back in the day to get her guidance or to have her scry for them or pull tarot cards for them or read the stars or give them kind of guidance. It feels like you just know so much. And the thing about the moon is she's a very dreamy feminine energy, but she's not a young feminine energy. She's not the maiden. She's not like giggling and not knowing what's going on. She's the mom. She's a little bit older. She might even be the grandmother and she knows more. She's not easily foolable. She's not going to be giggling and laughing at some cheesy guy's jokes because he's cute. She is going to see deep into someone's soul and be able to know them. So again, I feel like you intimidate a lot of people. I feel like you probably have guys that wouldn't even approach you because they are like, oh my God, I'm not ready for this. Pile 1 is going to see through to my core and I cannot handle that. That is definitely going to intimidate some people. So anyway, I think that is what I have for you, pile 1. I really hope it resonated. If it did, let me know in the comments. I always love hearing from you guys, hearing your thoughts and stories, and I would love to know if you think this fits you or not. Also give this reading a thumbs up, hit the like button if it did resonate, and make sure to subscribe, turn on those notifications so you can find out as soon as I post next. And if you want to see more of my content, head to my Patreon. Like I mentioned in the intro, this was actually the runner-up, 4th or 5th runner-up on Patreon for reading suggestions last time. So that should tell you how amazing the readings we do over on Patreon are. We get really deep. I just posted one all about your past love lives and how that's affected you. Since you guys clearly are an old soul, you probably have a lot of past lives that are affecting your love life. So you guys definitely might want to watch that one. And if you would like to see it and get access to over 65 of my additional readings, all kinds of readings about love, spirituality, career, romance, relationships, head to my Patreon. And the link for that is underneath the timestamps in the comments, in the description, and I'd love to see you there. Also, if you want to get a private one-on-one reading with me, you can also get that at my website, briarrosetarot.com, and you can sign up for a half hour or a full hour-long session with me, have me pull tarot for you, read your astrology, channel for you, and you get to pick whether you want it for a half hour or a full hour. You get to choose what we talk about. So yeah, if you want that, go to my website, briarrosetarot.com, and the link for that is in my description. Thank you so much for watching. I am sending you so much love and light, and I'll be back again very soon. So I will see you then. Bye. Hey pile 2, welcome to your reading. So if you guys picked this crystal and this card, this is going to be your reading. So you guys got commitment, and for your other cards, you got the Hungry Ghost, the Shadow Queen, in the dream walker. So I feel like you are the kind of woman that a lot of men would want to commit to. I'm actually seeing in my mind, this is a really intense image, but a woman waiting for her man while he's off at war. And I almost feel like you give off the vibe of that perfect girlfriend, perfect wife who would be so loving and supportive and loyal if her man ever needed to do some kind of a challenge, go off to war, or even go to work all day or something like that. And you would be supportive, waiting for them. It feels like you're the kind of person that when you love really deep, or this is the vibe people are getting off of you. You seem like you would stick to them to the, to the end, as long as they didn't do anything crazy, right? But for the most part, you are going to be loyal. You're not going to be scared off by something small or change your mind halfway through. I don't know if you have a little fixed energy in your astrological chart, but it just feels like once you commit to something, you truly are committed. And I feel like because you love so hard, the people that have crushes on you or like you, they dream of being on the receiving end of that. They think it would be so amazing to be the recipient of that kind of love and that kind of a loyalty that you offer. I also feel like you seem like you would be an amazing cuddler and just an amazing partner in general. Like you feel like you can be kind of goofy at times and kind of silly. When you're in a funny mood, you might just kind of make funny, stupid jokes or just be kind of like corny even. And I feel like there's something kind of cute about that. Like I feel like people notice the way you open up when you really love someone and how sweet and loving and kind of funny you can be at times. And I feel like they really dream of being on the receiving end of that. So I would say the feminine archetype you embody would be that kind of extremely loyal mom or wife who someone knows they can truly depend on. And also, I feel like you have a lot of a beautiful like sense of creativity or sense of dressing yourself. You might be someone who really adorns themselves. I'm getting not everyone in this pile is going to be like a fashionista, but I feel like the way you carry yourself, the way you put outfits together, there is something cute about that. There is something good looking about it. And I also feel like you are very creative. There's a saying, give a woman something small and she'll make it into something really big. And obviously the example of that is how women take a certain thing and turn it into a baby, right? Like that's the ultimate example of how women kind of expand things. And or same thing with like giving them some food and they turn it into an amazing meal. Even if you just gave them some raw ingredients, they're able to turn it into something so special. So I feel like you really embody that. Like you seem like the kind of person who's able to make the most of any situation and really find the silver lining or be optimistic or just find a way out. Even if you're not feeling good about it, you're able to find a way out. You feel like you're the kind of person who will push yourself through and who will truly always be resourceful and also always stick to the people around you and help them with whatever they're going through. I'm kind of getting the divine feminine archetype of the lover because it's a very passionate energy. It's someone who really cares. It's someone who is going to not just eat a meal and kind of mindlessly be like, oh yeah, that was good, but who's going to really taste the flavor. It's someone who is passionate and kind of lusty about life and feels things on a very deep level. And I feel like that's you. It feels to me like you love hard, you would fight hard. And if you were into someone or if you were in a relationship with them, they could truly rely on your loyalty, your interest in them, your emotions towards them. You don't do things lukewarm. You're not just gonna like muddle through and pretend and just like feel halfway about something. Feels like when you give your commitment and loyalty to something, you're 100% giving your all. So I feel like people again fantasize about being on the receiving end. What would it be like to receive this kind of love from pile 2? What would it be like to have their undivided attention because they are so giving, they are so loving, and they make everything so amazing? So we got the hungry ghost, obsession, scarcity, consciousness, attachment. And I feel like that's actually kind of your energy, but in a good way. Like I feel like you might be the kind of person who gets obsessed with things. Or when you're in a relationship, you're obsessed with your partner. And again, I think this is something people love about you. They don't have to guess, where am I standing with pile number 1? Does pile 1 like me? Are they into me? It's like, when you love so hard, you love so intensely, you love so deep. And I feel like people who might like you or have a crush on you, they think of it as like a privilege to be on the receiving end of that level of love. And they probably imagine, like, what would that be like? What would it be like to have someone as amazing as pile number 2 liking me that much? Because I know they're the kind of person that's like all into their relationships, and they're the person who gives everything that they have when they actually do care about someone. We also got the dream walker, dreams, the collective good illusions. I feel like you care very much about the collective good. You care very much about how your family is doing, how your friends are doing. You might be the kind of person who really like stays abreast of like current events and worries about people in another part of the world who are going through a crisis. But it feels like you really have such a big open heart, and you are someone who goes above and beyond, or who would give the shirt off your back to someone. You would really care and not just walk past a homeless person and not bat an eyelash. Feels like you are such an open-hearted, empathetic type of energy. And again, it's reminding me of the lover or even the mom in the divine feminine archetypes, where it feels like you give so much and you look after people so much. You really take care of them. I think it's so cool that your card that you pulled is the commitment card, because I feel like you do seem like someone who truly commits, and people love that they can kind of trust that. Let me put this flower back. Anyways, let's get into some tarot. We got the Justice card, the Empress, the Magician, the Three of Wands reversed, and the Knight of Cups. So there's something also very charismatic about you. I just heard that line from Taylor Swift where she says, and you tilt your head back laughing like a little kid. I feel like when you laugh, it's just so infectious, and there's something so joyful and beautiful about it. When you're in a good mood, when you're feeling amazing, it's like everyone in the room can feel it. It's reminding me of that phrase, when mama's happy, everyone's happy, or when mom's not happy, no one's happy. It's like we all want our mom to be happy because she does so much for us, you know? And I feel like that's kind of your vibe as well, because you're such a deep lover, because you give so much of yourself to so many people, and because you're so loyal to your partners. It's like they just want to help and take care of you, and they just want to see you happy. And if someone's not your partner, they probably fantasize about that, about making you happy, about making you smile, because you do seem like such a kind soul. And also, I feel like you can be quite witty and funny. And I'm just feeling like people get a kick out of you. Like people could just kind of laugh about the things you do. I don't know if you have some like quirky habits, or you kind of might get in a mood and act kind of like strange or something, but I'm almost feeling like people tease you about it. Like, oh my God, when you're mad, you always like sulk around and make that little scrunching thing with your nose or something like that. But you know, there's something cute about it. Like people getting a kick out of it, people thinking it's amusing, people loving it when you kind of do these weird things. No offense, but you know, it's like, I think when you really like someone, you do notice those little quirks they have, and you tend to really like it. And you might be quirkier than the normal person, so you have more quirks for people to fall in love with, right? That's a really good thing. We also got the Empress card, and she is definitely that embodiment of feminine energy. And interestingly, in a lot of the cards, she's actually depicted as pregnant. So again, she represents the archetype of that mom and how connected we are to our mom. So I feel like for you, the way you look out for the people around you, the way you give to people, it actually makes people want to give to you more. And it's something that I feel like really leaves a mark on their heart. And even if they're not on the receiving end of it, they might see how kind you are to your friends. They might see the way you start laughing uproariously, and they just picture making breakfast in bed for you and taking care of you and making you smile. You know, I feel like your joy, it's just infectious. And that's the thing, I feel like people really do like to take care of you. We have this Empress card coming through, and of course the Empress is in repose on the Rider-Waite deck, so she's laying back, and it's almost like the more you give, the more people want to do stuff for you. Kind of like how, you know, when it comes to Mother's Day, someone was making a joke about like no one cares about Father's Day, but everyone does so much for Mother's Day. And that's probably because our moms feel like they do a lot more for us. You know, mom will like, you know, pack your lunch and then take care of you after school, and like inquire about all your teachers and remember the names. And so it's kind of like the more our mom does for us, the more we are connected to her. And I feel like this is such a powerful archetype you give off, even if it's just in a romantic context where people can picture you as like that really loving person to be in a relationship with. And what's also interesting is the Empress is is laying back in the Rider-Waite deck. So I feel like there's something, I want to say not lazy about you, but also kind of like gentle and soft about you. You know, like you're not a hard driving, pushing energy. You feel like you are very giving, very loving, and also very capable of receiving. And also someone who it would probably be fun just to spend a casual day like goofing off with you, watching cheesy movies and relaxing and like cooking, baking cookies and giggling with cups of milk. You know, it feels like you are just an easy energy to fall in love with. It doesn't feel like you are super mysterious and people don't know how to approach you. It feels like there's a beautiful sunny disposition to you and you're very relaxed, you're very easygoing. And in a way, I feel like a lot of people that know you might crush on you because of that. Like even if you just consider someone a casual friend or an acquaintance or just like a friendly coworker, they might really harbor a deep crush on you because you are so sweet and charming with everyone. They might think you have more of a connection with them than you actually do. They might be actually imagining you guys having this really intense future together. We also got the Three of Wands reversed, which I think is really interesting because the Three of Cards is a energy of like adventure and exploration and pushing boundaries. And to me, it does feel like you kind of like to be in your comfort zone. Like I said, there's something kind of not lazy, but comforting about you. Kind of like I could picture someone like walking around the house in a little pair of fuzzy slippers and kind of like puttering over to the kitchen and whipping up some pancakes. Like it feels like there's that gentle, soft quality. So I do feel like when it comes to feminine archetypes, it is giving me kind of like mom vibes or even lover vibes, and just seems like an amazing partner. People might fantasize about this, about that comfort and that familiarity. It's reminding me of like women in the South, how they can be like, hey baby, what do you want? You know, and I talk in that soft Southern accent. And it can be, even though it might not sound like they're not trying to be seductive, but so many men can kind of fall in love with that person, you know, that waitress at the truck stop or that lady at church who's just being nice and friendly, but because it's so warm, it's so welcoming, it's so sweet and loving, and there's something very kind of mothering about it that I feel like a lot of men are just so drawn to it. So let's get into some more cards. So we got details, education, and dry desert. So with details, you might be that person that you really make sure that everything is taken care of and looks good when you do go out. Like I feel like for some of you guys, not everyone, but you might be that person that puts extra effort into your appearance or make sure that you look really nice. And I feel like people notice that if you do put extra effort into your makeup or your hair or your clothing and making sure that it is fashion forward or making sure that like your makeup is on point and all of that, trust me, the people around you do appreciate that. They appreciate how you just seem very well taken care of and even like extra clean. I feel like there's something about you that might just naturally smell good. You might have a naturally great smelling scent about you. But I feel like people can see that when you do something, you really do it well. Like I said, you can be kind of like that lazy, gentle energy, but I also feel like when you really care about something, when you really want to put your effort into it, you would do a really great job. Kind of like I said, the lady at church in the South, you know, she might not be this hard driving, like go-getter energy, and she might talk to you in a really gentle voice, but I guarantee when she shows up with her peach cobbler, if I can talk, at the church social, it's going to be the best peach cobbler you ever ate. And she's going to follow the recipe to the T. She's not going to be like, oh yeah, they didn't have, you know, the brown sugar, so I just used white sugar. She's going to be marching out to the store, making sure that she gets that brown sugar. And so there's something about kind of that beautiful perfectionism, not in an over the top, like aggressive way of someone who it can be kind of annoying because they're super rigid, but in a way of like, when I'm going to do it, when I'm going to take care of the people around me, I'm going to make sure it's done right. I'm going to make sure that everyone around me feels really good. And what's sticking out to me about this education card is this little dancing Tinkerbell fairy creature over this book. I'm just noticing it now, but it's reminding me of the vibe that I feel like you guys give off of possibly being a big reader or having certain of those hobbies that, like I said, people might even get a kick out of it. They might be like, oh my gosh, nose in a book again. You're always reading. You have your head in the clouds. And there's something kind of charming and imaginative about you. It's kind of reminding me of also the maiden archetype. Like there's a playfulness. So I kind of feel like you combine those two archetypes of like the mom, the maiden, where you're kind of also, there's a youthfulness towards you. There's a perpetual, youthful, young quality that you give off. Like you seem like you would be the kind of person who would be genuinely delighted if someone gave you a gift. You wouldn't just be like, oh, thanks. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's what I wanted. You'd be like jumping up and down and joyful and super happy, and your eyes would widen. So again, I feel like that's something that really just makes people want to wait on you, want to help you, want to dote on you, want to look after you. And kind of that imaginative, dreamy, and like just, you know how young kids, like you could give them a cardboard box and they'll find hours to play with it and they'll be so happy about it. Like that joy of finding the beauty in every day, that is the vibe I'm getting from you guys. Let's get into some more cards. So we got passion, prosperity, inspiration, and new beginnings. So people may really imagine a new beginning with you. They may imagine that you would be the kind of person that they could really start a life with and they could really be with long term. I feel like you would have people who, like I said, get very attached to you even if you aren't knowing them in like a strictly romantic context. Like maybe this is someone that, you know, you work with and you could just consider them like a client or a coworker, but they just end up falling in love with you. Or it could be that you guys, you know, meet this person out just at a store really briefly, but they think of you as just so pretty, so cute, and also, again, that kind of charming, almost like youthful energy. And also that you seem very, almost like unjaded. You know, you don't seem like someone who has been like traumatized by the world and is like completely closed themselves off to life. You feel very open, very invigorated, like your energy is open to new experiences and new people. And I feel like that's such an attractive quality. It's kind of giving me that vibe of like Marilyn Monroe, how she just seemed very passionate, but there was also something kind of vulnerable about her and also kind of youthful and young. And she seemed very like wide-eyed, you know, and she seemed very like you could actually affect her. She didn't seem closed off to things. She didn't seem like she'd been there a million times. And she always kind of had like this way of going about things where she would giggle and she would laugh and she just seemed very present. And I feel like you give off that vibe. I hope I'm explaining it well. So in a way, I feel like that's kind of like the dual kind of contrasting archetypes you give off is like mom and then maiden, which I know are contrasting, but I notice that a lot in astrology. Sex symbols tend to have contrasting placements like a Pisces Aries or a Libra Scorpio. Those are very strong sex symbol vibes. And I feel like for you guys, a lot of people do imagine those relationships with you. They do imagine being on the receiving end of your passion because it doesn't feel like it's just limited to like, oh my God, this snow cone tastes so good. Or like, wow, this cheesy corn dog is freaking amazing. But you would also be that way, you know, in other areas, in the bedroom, romantically, all those areas. You wouldn't just take them at face value and be jaded and be like used to it. You really would come into it with so much energy for absolutely everything you go through. There's also this vibe with people thinking that you really are that ride or die. You wouldn't necessarily be someone who would leave someone behind if they didn't have any money or if they were broke or whatever. You really do feel like you would be that person who would see them through, and even that you might be lucky and have some kind of luck on your side and that you naturally would find a way to attract money yourself. But I do feel like people love this loyal, sweet, quality that you give off. And honestly, you might be a bit of a muse for many people. We got the inspiration card. People might see you as a muse and they might have even like written poetry about you or written a song about you or something like that. Let's get into some astrology dice for pile number 2. So we got, wow, not a surprise, Libra, and then we got double Cancer. Okay, perfect. I feel confirmed for mentioning moms throughout this reading. Oh, and then it just spun over to Gemini. We could do a little Gemini reading too, since we got double Cancer. So we got Libra, Cancer, and I guess we'll throw in Gemini since it did flip over to the third house randomly. So we got Libra energy. Libra is so charming. Libra is the ultimate charmer of the zodiac. Libra is the ultimate energy that could, you know, sell a down jacket to someone in the desert. You know what I mean? They could sell anyone anything because they're so diplomatic, they're so charming. They are the kings and queens of charm. So I feel like you guys give off that vibe that when you are in a good mood or when you're feeling silly, it's just so infectious. Everyone loves being around it. Another thing about Libra is it is an air sign. Air is a very light-hearted energy. It's more literally light. You know, you can think of how air just floats around and goes where it wants to. And there's kind of that not staying super dwelling in the past energy when it comes to air. So they're not going to be like fixated on something that happened a really long time ago because they kind of flow and move on to the next, just in the way a gentle breeze blows through an area and it's not going to stay lingering in the same spot. So for you guys, I feel like you have that quality to you where there's almost like a relaxed energy. There's almost like a easygoing, not getting super deep, not getting super intense and tangled up, but actually, you know, being able to live very much in the moment and being able to enjoy things and being able to be that kind of breath of fresh air that I feel like people really want. Like they probably would want you at the party because you would kind of lighten it up, make jokes, you know, crack a few jokes and get people laughing. And there's something about you that I feel like people just feel like almost relieved to be in your energy. You know, they know you're not going to start a random fight. They know you're not going to get super mad about things. It just feels like you're an easy person to be around. Then we also have the moon. So the moon is ruled by Cancer. As we've been mentioning, the moon is the mom. And I feel like you give off that vibe as well. So moms take care, of course, of everyone around them. They are someone that a lot of people look up to and trust and turn to, and also that I feel like people really deeply want to make happy. You know, when you think about, so many people are like, oh, I just want to impress my parents, I want to impress my mom, I want to buy my mom a house, or I want to buy my, you know, mom a new car or something. I feel like in a way, because you are so giving, because you're so energetically generous with people, it just makes people want to give to you more. And I love that phrase, when mama's happy, everyone's happy, or when mom ain't happy, nobody's happy, because it's really true. A lot of us are very tuned into the energies of our moms because it makes, I don't know, the whole world light up when your mom's just in a really good mood and kind of being silly or in her, you know, happy vibe. It makes everything in the household lighten up somehow. So I feel like deep down, so many people do want to please you, want to make you happy, want to take care of you and look after you. So that energy of caretaking, it's funny, it kind of goes both ways. And then we also have Gemini, and I actually think it was perfect that that little dice flipped over to the other side. So you guys got Gemini as well, because I do feel like you also have that air energy of Gemini, and Gemini's another air sign and is super interested in a million different things. So we have that kind of mental curiosity of air where it's a very kind of youthful energy, always learning about a new topic, always trying to figure something else out. I mean, Gemini is literally ruled by Mercury, which is a very young energy to it. And you have that kind of youthful quality, like I was saying, the maiden to you. And Gemini can be that kind of like chaotic, you never really know what to expect with them. They're interested in this one day and then they change their mind and they're actually interested in this and they totally feel differently about that, and now they're started this as a hobby. But it's like that's what also makes them super interesting to be around, and you never have to worry about having a boring conversation with a Gemini because they know so much random stuff, and also they're just so interested. They're interested in anything. They're great talkers. They're great people to be around. And again, I just feel like a lot of people also would dream about literally getting to date you and just getting to spend time with you because you seem like someone who is fun and interesting to be around. It doesn't feel like you would be a bore or you would be kind of like, oh, well, I guess I'll spend time with them, but I'm not really enjoying it. It feels like being around you is easy, it's light, it's fun, and you're someone that just adds so much joy and delight to everyone around you. So I think that's what I have for you. Pile 2, I really hope it resonated. If it did, let me know in the comments. I always love hearing from you, so let me know your thoughts. Also, make sure to give this this reading a thumbs up, hit the like button, and make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can find out as soon as I post next. And if you want to see more of my content, head to my Patreon where I post all my additional readings. I just posted one all about your past lives and what kind of love, romantic situations you had in your past lives and how that's affecting your current love life. So we get really deep and talk about certain events that happened for you centuries ago. So if you're interested in that, or the 65 other readings you'll get access to as soon as you sign up, you can go to the link underneath the timestamps in the comments in the description for my Patreon. And if you would like to get a private one-on-one reading with me, you can also get that at my website, briarrosetarot.com, and you can sign up for a half hour or a full hour-long session with me, have me pull tarot for you, read your astrology, channel for you. You can do a pre-recorded reading, a live one-on-one session. You get to really choose how it goes and what we focus on. So if you would like to get that, go to my website, briarrosetarot.com, and the link for that is in my description. Thank you guys so much for watching. I am sending you so much love and light, and I'll be back again very soon with another reading. Take care, guys. Bye. Hey Pile 3, welcome to your reading. So if you guys picked this crystal and this card, this is going to be your reading. So you guys picked Compassion, and you also got the Arrow Master, Sisters of the Seasons, the Lady of the Gift, and the River Queen. So what I'm seeing in my mind is like a female huntress. Actually, the Arrow Master is a perfect depiction of the image I'm seeing in my mind of just this hunter. It's almost like a goddess. It's reminding me of Artemis, who is a hunter, master of the hunt. And it feels to me like you have that power that she had, where she was known for being highly intelligent, very quick-witted, and there's something kind of wild about her. There's something kind of primal and untamable. She's not the kind of feminine energy that just wants to like have a family and have everyone be peaceful at home. There's a wild, untamed quality to her that I feel like you guys give off. And I feel like a lot of people know they can turn to you, they can relate to you if they need help with their problems. You're very intelligent. People know they can trust you, they know they can rely on you, and they know you're someone they can turn to if they need help with something or in some area. You might also be very connected to animals. Artemis was extremely connected to animals, and some of you guys might have that kind of connection where dogs, cats, maybe someone would tell you, you know, my dog doesn't really like anyone, he's probably gonna ignore you, but don't be offended, and the dog ends up like curling up in your lap. But Artemis has that quality of being able to be in nature, being able to get along with any kind of animal. And I feel like you give off that vibe too. There's also something like reliable about you. It doesn't feel like you're super wishy-washy or you would change your mind all the time. It feels like when you get something in your mind, you would stick to it, you would go after it, you would make this happen. And the interesting thing about Artemis is she was the most popular of the gods and goddesses, and all the local people in Europe absolutely loved her and thought she was amazing because she was this feminine archetype, but her life was about so much more than that. And so I feel like you have that kind of untamed quality. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of you in this pile are single a lot, or you're not like always needing to be in a relationship kind of energy. To me, it feels like you have a very strong independent streak. And I feel like people know that they kind of have to treat you with respect. They kind of have to approach you in the right way. Kind of like if you were approaching a wild animal, you wouldn't run up on it. And I'm not saying you're like a wild animal, but you know, you can feel the power of like a bear or a lion, and you know they could just slice you with one dash of their hand. And you feel like that same energy. Not that you would do it unless someone deserved it, but I do feel like people are intimidated, and they honestly, I feel like most of the people around you treat you with a certain level of reverence. Even if they're family or friends, I feel like they still are like, ooh, I'm not gonna mess with pile number 3 because they can handle their ish, and I know they can take care of themselves. To me, you don't feel as emotionally needy as other energies. It feels like you are very independent. You can look after yourself. You can take care of yourself. you can probably give yourself a pep talk or talk yourself through a hard day, and you're not the kind of person, I feel like, who would fall apart in like a puddle of tears if someone didn't call you back or if you didn't get the promotion at work. It feels like you are so reliable and people just know they can trust you on a really deep level. So I wouldn't be surprised if the people who picked pile 3, you guys ended up getting a lot of promotions, you ended up doing really well at work and having elevated positions in your company or in a charity you were working with, or it was just really easy for you to make friends because I do feel like you command respect. And speaking of having an easiness of making friends, I wouldn't be surprised if pile 3, you guys are a real girl's girl and you might have a lot of good friends. I wouldn't even be surprised, and I hope no one takes this the wrong way, if they're not in that group, but I wouldn't be surprised if there were women in this pile who like date other women, you know, or who are into other women romantically, because I feel like you really relate well to women and you get along well with women incredibly well. And you're kind of a protector of women. I feel like a lot of you guys in this pile, you would be considered like a big sister to people, or they would just be like, wow, pile 3, I know I can turn to them. In a world where there's a lot of like cattiness, backstabbing, feels like you would really advocate for other women and really have that kind of like big sister protective quality about you that I feel like makes people really trust you and open up to you. And some of you guys in this pile, you might have even been a bit of a tomboy growing up, or you still might be one, but I feel like either way, people just know that you kind of got their back. You know, when it comes to like a friend, someone that's close to you, you will absolutely go to the mat for people. You're extremely generous, I think, and you're not someone who is going to say something but not mean it, or promise someone something but not deliver. So yeah, I feel like a lot of people really look up to you, really admire you in this way, and think of you as a real advocate, especially for people in need and people who are, you know, maybe not in the best situation, that you would be that person who would stick your neck out to help anyone around you. Let's get into some more cards. So we got the 6 of Cups, the 3 of Swords, the Wheel of Fortune, the Star card, and the High Priestess. So it's really interesting. We have a lot of powerful major arcana cards coming through. I feel like a lot of people feel your power. And it's funny because I don't feel like you have to go through conventional measures to get that power. Like, I don't feel like you guys would have to wear like a low cut blouse or a super skimpy outfit, or some of the traditional ways that women have had to adapt to get power, like marrying a powerful guy. I think that's why people loved Artemis so much, is she didn't obtain her power through a man or through a relationship. She had her own power and she was completely and totally independent. And you know, I think in a way people really respect that when it comes to like building your life. I think it's probably smarter just in general, right? To have power that you came up with on your own, build something that no one can take away from you. No one can be like, oh, I actually helped them with that. But to be that independent energy. What's also interesting about these cards is that you pulled some very spiritual cards. So we got the Wheel of Fortune and we also got the High Priestess card. So both of those are spiritual in different ways. One is kind of a fiery spirituality and the other is a water spirituality, but they're both very spiritual. Wheel of Fortune is ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter is a planet of wisdom, spiritual wisdom, and deep knowledge when it comes to all things esoteric and religious and spiritual. And then we have the High Priestess, and she is the ultimate psychic channeler, ruled by Cancer, of course. So I feel like for you guys, you have a deep connection to the divine. You might have an intuition that's super on point, or you just might be considered a bit of an authority. Jupiter is kind of a stand-in for God. And so for you guys, I feel like you have this authority quality to you. You know, you have this deep knowledge. Jupiter also rules Pisces in ancient astrology. So keeping that in mind, it's a very spiritual vibe to it. So it rules Sagittarius now and Pisces back in the day. And either way, I feel like for you, you have this spiritual side, you have this spiritual instinct or essence. And a lot of you guys may be intuitive, or even if you're not super into like esoteric woo-woo stuff, I feel like a lot of you guys are considered an expert in whatever you're doing. So even if you only dealt with computer sciences. You might be really respected in your career field, and people around you really take your word and value it a whole lot. It feels like if you told someone something, most people would really trust you and listen to just your tone of voice could probably command the whole room. I also feel like people think of you as someone who is deeply loyal and looks out for the underdog. To me, this is kind of a goddess archetype of like, yeah, a goddess, and also of a superhero like Wonder Woman or something. Someone who really goes out of their way to help others, is so deeply compassionate, and is someone who truly is willing to fight for what's right, willing to fight for a cause, and isn't necessarily as worried about how they're perceived or coming off sexy or coming off super attractive. Not to say you're not those things, but I feel like, you don't do that on purpose. It's not something you seek out. There's an effortless, natural quality to you. And that in itself may be very seductive to people. Like, you seem like the kind of you know how guys will put on like their social media, or their not their social media, but their dating profiles, like, I don't like girls that wear makeup and stuff like that, or a lot of guys will say stuff. And I feel like it is because deep down, a lot of people crave this natural energy, this authenticity that you guys give off so effortlessly. Maybe you are someone who puts a lot of effort into your makeup or your clothes, or you dye your hair or whatever, but you give off the vibe of effortlessness, that it's easy for you, that you're not necessarily super self-conscious, and you're not staring in the mirror all the time trying to worry about like how you look and, oh my God, I feel so insecure. And I feel like that makes other people feel comfortable around you as well. That makes other people really feel like they can be themselves and they can be truthful, because you just seem so easy. You just seem like you're not stressing. And I feel like that kind of energy is really infectious to people. It really makes people let their guard down and relax as well. So yeah, I think that there's something about you that, even though you might not fit the archetype of like the slinky Jessica Rabbit, super sexy, trying to seduce someone vibe, but you might be that person that seduces someone with like no effort. I'm kind of thinking of like Cameron Diaz in like the 90s, how she was always like laughing and she seemed kind of goofy, silly, and down to earth, but guys went absolutely crazy for her and thought she was like this goddess. That's kind of what it's reminding me of, is like the girl next door that isn't, all gussied up and doesn't have like perfect makeup done all the time. And yet people are so in love with her and think she's just so beautiful. So let's get into some more cards. So we got stuck in the mud, cleaning house, rescue, and spark. So I think it's really interesting that we got 2 more cards about helping, or even 3 with this cleaning house. Like, I feel like people really feel like if they're in a tough spot, or they need something, or they're kind of lost, you would be the one that they would turn to. You might even notice that at work. Like, you're like, oh my God, why is everyone asking me for help all the time? Why does everything land on my plate? Like, this is so frustrating. But I actually feel like it's a big compliment to you, and it shows how much people respect you and think of you as someone who can just handle it. I'm hearing it's handled from Scandal. You know how Kerry Washington's character would always say it's handled, because everyone just knew she got it down, and that, as long as it was on her desk and she was managing it, like, it would be taken care of no matter how difficult it was, because she was so masterful at it, And so I feel like you give off that vibe where people truly can trust you in professional and personal settings. I wouldn't be surprised if this pile is very financially successful as a result of that. We also got spark, and for me, I feel like that also ties into you guys being very witty and kind of the life of the party. Someone who is easy to get along with, someone who has also some charisma. Like, I feel like if you were in a difficult social situation, like maybe it was with people you'd never met before, or it's kind of an awkward party, or it's kind of like you're sitting next to someone at a dinner party and they're not the best conversationalist, you could probably manage it and handle it, because I do feel like you can make a lot of people open up. You can probably talk to anyone. You're probably one of those people that might even have a very varied or very diverse friend group, where there's people who are totally different personality styles, people maybe from different cultures or backgrounds or ethnicities, or maybe, you know, people who have completely different interests, and your friends, when they meet each other, are like, who is this? I would never hang out with them. But you genuinely can vibe and get along with everyone. I honestly feel like you're kind of like a connector as well. Like some of you guys would even make great matchmakers, because I feel like you do have a wide social circle, or you know a lot of people, you can get along with a lot of people. So it's like, you're good at matching, or you're good at being like, oh, you want a friend to go do like aerial yoga with? Oh, I have another friend who does aerial yoga. Or you have a friend that you want someone to find, you want to find someone who plays chess on Sunday mornings. Well, oh my God, I have a friend who does exactly that. Like you just feel like you know so many people, and you have a lot of options because of that. So I feel like that's another thing people respect and like about you, is like, yeah, they really have this kind of Rolodex, and they have lots of options. And it can actually have a really positive, beneficial effect in people's lives, because I feel like you're able to set people up and make those introductions that could even change the course of someone's life. And like, you could set up people who end up getting married. You could set up multiple people who do that. And that's kind of like manna in heaven. So you're kind of getting good karma for that. So that's another good thing for you guys, pile number 3. But yeah, I feel like your humor, you're kind of I feel like you also really handle tough situations well. Like you, I feel like, stay really calm in stressful situations. You're not the kind of person to like panic, lose your mind, and start screaming. And you're also, I feel like, not the kind of person to just be too chill. Like I think that's why so many people loved Artemis, is she just seems so smart. And isn't that at the end of the day what we really want? We want to be around someone who's competent, who can handle things. We want to have partners or friends who are capable, and who, like, we know we can trust. Like if the ish hits the fan, that we can hit up that person and they'll be like, okay, no, I got it. Let me make some phone calls. I mean, that is like the best feeling. And I feel like you give that to so many of the people around you, and they're so grateful to have you in their life. I also feel like a lot of people think of you just as fun and witty and a great person to like socialize with, be at parties with, because you are very entertaining and you kind of keep things moving. You know, you kind of keep things going, like the conversation flowing easily. You probably have a lot of interesting knowledge or random facts in your head that you can like spout off or quote if the conversation starts running dry. So yeah, I think people really, really enjoy, like I said, you'd be a great person to be seated next to you at a cocktail party or a dinner party or anything like that. Let's get into some more cards. So we got freedom, love, answers, and prosperity. That's interesting, because I've been talking about this whole reading, how I feel like you guys will probably end up making a lot of money just because this super competent, powerful goddess energy, people love to hire someone like this. People love to have someone like this as their company. This is, you know, this kind of energy is always in super high demand. And I wouldn't even be surprised if some of you guys, you had friends who asked you to like start a business with them, or, you know, go in to invest something with them, because I feel like they just want you on their side and they know that you're someone they can really look up to. But we also got freedom. And to me, it makes a lot of sense, because throughout this reading, I've also been feeling or seeing the image from Sex and the City of like that wild horse. I always quote this episode, but when Carrie sees Big and they're outside his engagement party, and she sees this horse that's drawing the carriage, and the horse is like tossing its mane, and she's like, some women are meant to run free like horses. And then they show Carrie walking away from Mr. Big. Of course, we know that's not how it ended, but I do feel like that vibe of like a super independent woman who's genuinely okay in her own energy, genuinely isn't desperate or needing to be around others, genuinely fine, which is kind of rare. Some people are like, oh, I'm fine with being single, but they're crying, they're genuinely sad about it. And then there's some people that are like, no, I'm truly okay. I like to be independent. I like to do things on my own. And I feel like that's such a superpower, because then when you choose a partner, you're not doing it out of a place of lack or a place of need. You're doing it out of a place of genuine energy. So I feel like for you guys, you do give off that genuinely independent, powerful vibe. You don't seem like you're needy. You don't seem like you're desperate. You don't seem like you're hoping and praying and needing someone to come into your life and fix things for you. It feels like you can really stand on your own 2 feet. And I do feel like this makes you attractive, but a bit of a challenge. Some guys that need a woman to be like less than them or to be like needing them all the time, they might not like this energy. They might be like, oh, I kind of want a woman who's a little bit of a mess because then she'll need me. And, pile 3, they got their stuff handled. So I'm not interested, But I actually feel like for guys that are maybe more powerful, maybe they want a challenge. Maybe they're kind of like an alpha male. I know that's kind of a loaded term, but and they like to maybe tick off certain challenges, and like they'd be the type who would want to like climb Mount Everest, or who would want to, work out at the gym and get their best physique, and they just love to set a goal and manage it. I feel like those would be the kind of guys you would attract because you are that challenge, and you don't seem like you have all these like desperate little gaps in your life that you're trying to fill in, and you're just open to anyone. Feels like if you are going to open yourself up to someone, they're really going to have to come correct for you, and you truly manage your life. So you do give off that goddess energy, like I said. I could even see like Hera as well from, yeah, Hera is coming through a little bit, but mostly Artemis, and I love her independence. So we also got Jeweled Web, Connectivity, In the Hand, The Universe is Your Partner, Moon Maiden's New Beginning, and Horned Cactus, Resourcefulness. So I do feel like you guys are very resourceful, and again, people just look up to your power, this strong energy you give off. I also feel like you do feel a lot of commonality with other women, and you might be someone who's even involved with like charities for women, or genuinely just you have a lot of interests that align with like female interests. Like you might not be someone that loves to hang out with the dudes, or maybe you are. Honestly, it could also go that way where you get along really well with masculine energy because you are kind of tomboyish. But I do feel like you would be that person who, like, if someone made a misogynistic comment or they were like really, making gross remarks, you'd be like, hey, knock it off. You are someone I feel like who does feel protective towards other women. And in that sense, I would call you a girl's girl. But yeah, I think that, again, people are thinking of you as someone who is very well connected, someone who has a lot of friends, and someone that I think people just really respect you. I think people put you up on a bit of a pedestal. And there might even be people in your life that are like, I wish I could be more like pile number 3. I wish I could be more competent like them. They manage things so well. They're so efficient. They take care of things. They just handle things amazingly. And here I am over here looking like a little bit of a clown. So I feel like the people around you truly do rely on you, respect you, and you just need to know that. Whether it's family, friends, coworkers, I think you're a little bit of a rock that people really feel like they can rely on, and it does mean a lot to them, whether they tell you that or not. Let's get into some astrology, guys, and figure out these energies for pile number 3. So we got the 7th house, aka Libra, we got double Libra, and we also got Jupiter. So we already talked about Jupiter. Jupiter rules over Sag, and of course Pisces in ancient astrology. Let's roll this one more time to get another sign. And oh my God, Sag. So we got double energy. Let me try to do it one more time and see if we're going to get any other sign. Taurus. Okay, perfect. So we have Sagittarius, Taurus, and then Libra. 2 of them are Venus ruled, and then of course we have Jupiter coming through as well. So let's start out with the 7th house, aka Libra. Libra are so charismatic. They are the diplomats of the zodiac. They really know how to talk to anyone, how to get along with anyone, and also they're great at diffusing situations, diffusing conflict, and keeping things kind of like chill, actually. They make amazing judges, and even lawyers are great in the legal system because they're not going to like start screaming their head off. They're going to try to figure out a way to resolve it. And again, I feel like people just respect the way you can manage even really tricky or difficult situations and still keep your head about you. You're not going to lose your mind and start being super chaotic and start screaming or, just melt down in a puddle of tears. you are going to keep your head on straight and be like, okay, so we need to change this, this, this. And I also think with Libra, again, that charisma, that ability to talk to absolutely anyone, charm anyone, get along with anyone. Libra's amazing at that. And they also have a lot of that grace. And I could see a lot of you guys in this pile being very agile and graceful by nature as well. That's just what's coming to mind with the image of Artemis. Then we also have the other Venus ruled energy, which is Taurus. Taurus rules the second house of personal income that we earn ourselves. So again, that energy of you guys possibly being very wealthy and being very self-made. And I feel like you give off that vibe as well. And what Libra and Taurus have in common, being Venus ruled, they have other things in common as well. But I feel like they also just carry themselves with a lot of decorum. You know, they're generally speaking not as messy as some of the other signs. You know, when it comes to like Pisces, they can be messy and kind of chaotic and forget to pay bills or forget that they had to. I think someone made a joke, which is like, you know, Virgo and Pisces, like a Virgo will, both of them will take care of your dogs, but a Virgo will remember to feed it, which I think is so funny. And that's exactly right. Pisces can be messy in that way. And then of course the fire signs can be super messy in all of them across the board and kind of being a little chaotic. But what Taurus and Libra have in common is they tend to manage themselves really well, and they tend to have that grace, and they tend to have that vibe of you can kind of trust them and rely on them not to make a scene, not to have any crazy situation, but to have a level of calmness, chillness, and relaxation that Venus involves. Then we also have Jupiter. And again, I was saying, you guys are a spiritual leader or just a leader for a lot of people. People look up to you. They see you as a bit of an authority. They really see you as a very powerful figure in their life. I would say you give off goddess Artemis energy. You seem like that feminine energy that isn't like a wilting flower. Oh my God, I need help, I'm needy. You seem like that feminine energy that's powerful, that is something that people will look up to, something people will turn to for help, for wisdom. And you're also not the feminine energy that's like the goddess of destruction. You know what I mean? Because that's another feminine archetype. But you, to me, seem like the feminine archetype of like the benefic, the sweet, the benevolent goddess who will genuinely look after people, even though you have power. And yes, if you wanted to, you could wield it violently or catastrophically or chaotically. You choose to yield it in a way that is kind, loving, and giving to the people underneath you. And I feel like that's what makes you so exceptional, because a lot of people would take this power and use it just for selfish purposes, but you truly try to help the collective. You truly try to help those around you. And I feel like that really benefits everyone who comes into contact with you. So I think that's what I have for you. Pile 3, I really hope it resonated. If it did, as always, please let me know in the comments. I always want to hear your thoughts. And make sure to give this reading a thumbs up, hit the like button, and make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications. And if you want to see more of my content, head to my Patreon, where you will get access to over 65 additional readings as soon as you sign up. And I just posted one all about your past lives and what you had going on there romantically. So we tune into the energy of your old relationships in your past lifetimes, what you had going on when it came to love, and how that's affecting your current love life. It's a really deep reading, but as I said, as soon as you sign up, you'll get access to all my readings. We have lighthearted readings, heavy readings, spiritual readings, money, career, love readings, every topic under the sun. We try to cover. Actually, that topic was this topic that we're doing over here is the 4th or 5th runner-up in the last suggestion thread you guys did on my Patreon. So that should tell you how good the reading topics are. This wasn't even the top one, but the Patreons always blow me away with their amazing suggestions. And like I said, we have new readings going up all the time from things they suggest, things I channel. So if you want to join us, go to the link underneath the timestamps in the comments and the description, and I'd love to see you there. Also, if you want to get a private one-on-one reading with me, you can get that at my website, briarrosetarot.com. You can ask me about whatever you want, basically within reason, of course. And you can have me pull tarot for you, read your astrology, channel for you. You can also do pre-recorded reading, a live reading, half-hour long reading, or a full hour-long reading. You get to really choose. how you want to go about it and how you want to approach all of it. So if you would like that, go to my website, briarrosetarot.com, and the link for that is in my description. Thank you guys so much for watching. I am sending you so much love and light, and I'll be back again very soon with another reading. Take care, guys. Bye. Hey, Pile 4, welcome to your reading. So if you guys picked this crystal and this card, this is going to be your reading. So you guys got view from above, get the big picture, and for your other cards, you got the Queen of the Light, Gaia's Garden, and the Sun Dancers. So I feel like what is coming to my mind right away is you guys do embody a kind of glamorous archetype of perfection in a way, or being a perfectionist. I almost feel like people feel like they have to kind of level up to get with you. So you do feel kind of like that princess in a tower, or that queen, or you know what just came to my mind? There's a very iconic image, I can't remember the name of the artist, but of a woman knighting a man. It's a famous painting. You could probably just Google like woman knighting knight painting, and it would probably come up because it's super famous. And I do feel like you have that archetype of kind of like a queen or a princess, or someone that a man has to kind of win over and has to get approval from in some way, and wants to get that approval from. There is a bougie quality to you. We do have Gaia's Garden, so that is a wealth abundance card. So some of you guys may give off a bougie or a high-end energy. Even if you're like dressed down, you might just give off a vibe that there's something kind of glamorous about you. And I do feel like you guys can be kind of like the center of attention when you want to be. There's something kind of joyful and fun, but also something kind of unrelenting about you, or I guess I should say, not easily satisfied, you know, not necessarily going to settle. You might be that person that is a perfectionist, that like in the restaurant when you're ordering, you're not just like, oh, I'll just take whatever salad, and hey, any dressing's fine, and oh, you guys are out of croutons. Oh, yeah, I don't care. Like, you might be that person that when you're ordering, you're like, hi, could I get the croutons on the side and also light onion? And also, could you not use the regular dressing? I just want olive oil and some lemon. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's a perfectionist quality, or like a people having to measure up to you quality. And of course, sometimes people might get annoyed by that, but I actually feel like you have really high standards for yourself and for others. And overall, I do think it gives you this kind of queen-like energy, and it makes people think, you know, that you are someone that they do respect on that level. Like I said, that archetype, like the reason that a man painted that painting of the princess, or whoever she is, knighting the knight, is because that kind of status of like this high status, beautiful, composed woman. I think a lot of men want to win that over, right? That's kind of deep in like the male mind. So I don't feel like it's a bad thing that you have high standards, or that you give off a little bit of a bougie vibe. And it's so funny. I actually didn't really look at this card before I started the reading, and now I'm seeing it says view from above, get the big picture. And it's literally showing a princess. Like, look at that. Princess looking out, and she literally looks, I wish I could know the name of this painting because it's coming to my mind so strong. I can't think of it, but Google it and you will see she's literally kind of dressed similarly. She's in this medieval outfit. So that is so crazy because there's so many like similarities and just confirmation, I guess. But I feel like you give off the vibe that is a little high end, or a little bit more high status, or even like a little perfect at times. Some of you guys do come across as a hard worker as well, and someone who wouldn't be opposed to working hard yourself to get the things you want. But I do feel like you come off like someone that someone would have to win over, or someone would, you know, you really are hard to get. You're not just an easy like, hey, let's go hang out at the local barbecue joint and, you know, I'll use a coupon kind of vibe. Like, you seem like someone that they know they have to dress right, they know they have to look right, they know they have to come correct. But yeah, let's get into some more tarot. So we got the Hierophant, the Judgment, This is making so much sense now. The Four of Cups, the Seven of Pentacles, Eight of Pentacles, and the Ten of Pentacles. Of course, you guys got the Ten of Pentacles, right? But yeah, I mean, the Ten of Pentacles, we got a lot of Pentacle energy. Pentacles is wealth. So people may think that you just require some wealth or some money, or you just may seem beautifully adorned, like someone who has beautiful clothing, beautiful outfits, or even just if you bought it from some cheap, website or something, people might just think the way you look, your bone structure, looks bougie, it looks beautiful, it looks high end in some way. The way you carry yourself, your grace, your manners, your decorum, it just may look high end to some people. I also feel like you guys, again, this fear of judgment is coming through. People being afraid that you're actually going to judge them. And we can see that in the Hierophant and the Judgment card. So the Hierophant is a spiritual leader generally, and obviously all the tarot cards have complex meanings. But for me, this makes a lot of sense because you usually, back in the day, it was the priest you would have to go to for absolution, or you would go to someone who was high up in the clergy if you needed wisdom. And I feel like a lot of people think of you as someone who has that elevated status. So it's almost like, if the priest didn't like you, or if someone high up in the church was like against you, it could really screw up your life. And their judgment carried a lot of weight. And again, I feel like people think of you as someone who really carries yourself in a very dignified way and doesn't really suffer fools lightly. Like, you're not just going to be like, oh, that's fine, you totally messed everything up, but it's cool. Or you're not going to be like, oh, that outfit is covered in food stains and it's really old and it smells bad, but yeah, sure, I'll still go on the date with you. I think you seem like someone that can be judgmental, but again, not necessarily in a bad way, right? Like, maybe you also just pay more attention to things and have more of an attention to detail than the average person might. You might seem more incisive and more intelligent and able to pick up on things. Like, maybe you have excellent manners, so maybe someone else thinks it's no big deal that they ended up using their soup spoon to eat their dessert, or vice versa. They use their dessert spoon to eat their soup, and you would notice because you have those manners, or maybe they think it's no big deal that they, I don't know, used the water bowl at the table to take a drink out of it. And that it's the finger bowl is for rinsing your fingers out at like fancy restaurants. And so you would just notice those things, and maybe they wouldn't notice. Or maybe they think it's no big deal, but to you it is. And again, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think you come off like people know that they do have to kind of bring their A game to be with you. And there is also that vibe that you are ambitious. You're not going to settle for just anything. You are someone who probably wants the best or expects the best and needs to be kind of treated badly, or the opposite of badly, treated well in order for someone to get into your life. So it is reminding me of a lot of feminine archetypes, like even the Empress card comes to my mind, how she's just laying in repose and she's very beautiful, but she just expects, again, to be treated badly, to be, why do I keep saying that? To be treated not badly, to be treated well, and to be spoiled, and to have people, kind of wait on her a little bit. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think the Empress card was drawn that way for a reason. So yeah, let me get into some of these cards. We got the Talisman card, the Encouragement card, Rock Bottom, and Education. So there is a vibe of intelligence coming through, a lot of wisdom with you. We have the Education card. You may seem like someone who is highly educated, knows a lot, has good manners, knows the way to go about things. I do feel like this may intimidate or even turn off certain people, that they're just looking for like an easy situation. They just want to be able to take the girl out to like Johnny's hot dog corner and use a coupon, and you're not going to be down for that. You probably have a little bit of higher standards, or you want to be taken to that nice restaurant with a nice meal. And so someone who's looking for just easy, let me just make this happen quick, is probably going to be turned off by this, but I feel like the right person is going to be excited by it and going to be like, oh, this is exactly what I'm looking for. I also feel like you guys give off a vibe of having a beautiful sense of taste and a beautiful eye for design, for clothing, even for perfume. You might smell really good is what I'm hearing. But I feel like you guys take really excellent care of yourselves, and people can see this energy with you where it doesn't feel like you're doing things super messy, or it feels almost like everything you do, you'd put some beauty in it. So I'm seeing, it's funny, I'm seeing like a duffel bag, but it's like a really beautiful, gorgeous duffel bag. So you know how sometimes someone's just going on a trip and like a weekend trip and they just need to throw a duffel bag in the carry-on and they just buy whatever gray or black regular schmegular duffel bag they got cheap off Amazon. And then there's the person who has like the matching set or the really beautiful bag, or maybe it's just unique and it's pretty and people might compliment it, or people might be like, oh, where did you get that bag? That's so cute. And I feel like you kind of had that vibe where everything you do or everything you like to dress yourself in might be very beautiful. I'm also hearing some of you guys might be very graceful physically. So just the way you move your arms, hands, the gestures you make, even the way you tilt your neck or your head might also be very, very beautiful. And people might think of it as very graceful, very attractive. And I feel like a lot of people are just very drawn to you. It doesn't feel to me like you guys would be the loudest people in the room or you would be trying to be the center of attention, but you just might naturally be the center of attention. And just the way you talk, some of you guys might even have a very pleasant sounding voice. And so the way you speak, I feel like does draw people in. But there is this vibe of like, I just heard prim and proper or prissy or something. Some people might take this the wrong way. You know what I just saw also in my mind? Samantha from American Girl Dolls. I love her. I was a Samantha. That's the one I bought. So definitely no judgment from me on this front. But you know how Samantha was kind of like the bougie one, and she was also kind of the like, I mean, I thought she was super pretty. I'm not saying she was the prettiest, but you know, she was really pretty, and she had her beautiful little tea set. And yeah, I feel like in a way it's giving me Samantha vibes, which everyone loves Samantha, so it's a good thing. Even if some people would hate on it and say she was prissy, it's like, yeah, she is prissy, and she's not coming to your janky tea party because she has petit fours at home and she has her own beautiful tea set. You know what I mean? So don't be mad if she's not willing to roll up to your chipped little broken tea set that's mismatched, because she has a beautiful one. And so again, don't think I'm calling you guys out, but I did hear prissy or prim and proper in my mind. Like I almost feel like, you know what it's reminding me of is like, this is so funny, but me and my friend were both like gluten-free. And anyway, we would always go to like college parties at the time. And of course, guys would be like, oh, we got beer. And we'd always be like, we can't drink beer. And that was our excuse, because also like I just straight up never liked beer, you know, because like it doesn't taste very good to me. I know some people like it, but we would always be like, oh, I'm so sorry, like we don't drink beer. Do you have anything else? And then they sometimes would try to be like, well, we're only doing beer tonight. And we'd be like, well, we can't, okay, so we won't drink then. And then they'd be like, oh, well, okay, so he has some Belvedere in the back or something like that. And then, you know, we get the nicer drinks. But it's funny because like once in a while, not often, they'd be like, oh no, it's just beer tonight. It's just beer pong night or something. Of course, this is like college era and, you know, college things. But anyway, my point is like, sometimes it's good to have that excuse of like, oh, I'm gluten-free, and then why you get the good stuff. And it's giving me that vibe, because guys would tease us and be like, oh yeah, Princess is over here, can't drink beer or whatever. I don't think they understood the concept of gluten-free, but anyway, it did benefit us because we were like, sweet, because beer tastes horrible, so like we wanted a mixed drink anyway. And if you're looking for that, use being gluten-free as your excuse, because I mean, I literally was gluten-free, but hey, do what you gotta do to get something other than a beer, right? A watered down like Bud Light or something. No one really wants to drink that, you know, like it just doesn't taste good. So anyway, it's giving me that vibe of like someone that's like, no, I'm not really going to accept just whatever you're offering, the cheap blah blah blah, and like I'll just not eat or something. And then people will be like, well, okay, let me see what I can do for you. So yeah, it feels a little higher end. It's kind of giving me Libra vibes a little bit, because I feel like Libras are kind of picky in that way. You know, they're kind of like not going to accept just the janky. I mean, Venus energy in general is very picky and doesn't like when someone tries to approach them with something that's kind of nasty or ratty or just thrown together. So Taurus vibes as well. Anyway, so we got encouragement, rock bottom, education. I do feel like with the encouragement card that you can be very loving and sweet and very kind to the people that you're actually really close to. And once you actually open up, you are very giving emotionally. But there's also kind of like a little bit of reserve in you. I don't feel like you're trying to be the loudest person in the room. I feel like you kind of like things how you like them, and you're not trying to necessarily get everyone to like you back. And honestly, I feel like that's such a confident vibe that you give off. It's such a strong, like, I'm okay in my own energy and I know I like what I like. And there's such a power in that. There's such a power. It also kind of reminds me, this card as well, of Elizabeth Bennet from like Pride and Prejudice, you know? How she just seemed like she was not impressed by the other things that everyone else was trying to be impressed by. And she had this like intelligent and, like I said, kind of prissy in a way. You know what I mean? Like someone else might have been like, oh, it's fine, whatever. But she was like, no, I'm still going to judge you because you were rude to me the first time. And I feel like because of that, that's what her appeal is. That's what her appeal was to Mr. Darcy. That's why he was like, I will move heaven and earth to get with her, is because she had this inner power and this inner confidence. And it's kind of giving me that goddess energy, you know, the archetype of someone who is a little bit above it all, but not in a bad way. Not that they think they're better, but just maybe they are doing things a little bit better, you know? But I do feel like once someone's in your inner circle, you can be very warm and loving. And so people do love the idea of being on the receiving end of that. And you would lift someone up if they're in a bad place. And you also have this inner power, this deep intuition and knowing that you can help use to guide people with this talisman card. So let's get some more cards. Reconciliation, spirit guide, travel, and peace. So, okay, now some energy is coming through. It's interesting. I'm not going to turn this into a relationship reading. I know some of y'all are like, oh God, not again. Please don't tell me this loser is coming through again. But I have to relay the messages, okay? It's not my fault. Some of you guys do have an ex that still thinks of you a lot and is trying to come in again and really does think of you as the one that got away. In fact, maybe because I haven't done a love reading in a minute, but they're kind of coming through a little frantic, like, oh, can I come through? Okay, awesome, you're listening now. No, we are not turning this into a love reading. I'm not going to spend the next 10 minutes channeling their feelings, but I'm just going to quickly acknowledge that you do have an ex that thinks about you quite a lot. And I do feel like you are the one that got away. And part of it is your physical beauty, them seeing you as very physically attractive in this beautiful archetype of someone who, again, is put together and is picky and choosy. Like, even if you do go, you know, a few days without washing your hair and you're doing, you know, washing it every few days, or maybe you don't spray on a ton of perfume before you leave, even if there is like a slightly messy quality to you at times, I feel like the way you manage it, it's still beautiful. Everything you do has a beautiful, just there's a lot of beauty around you. I wouldn't be surprised if some of you guys have that prominent Venus that I was mentioning. You could be a Taurus or Libra placement, major placement, or you could have Venus in a really strong conjunction with like your sun or your ascendant or your moon, or even other planets, other inner planets like Jupiter, Mercury, whatever. I feel like how you just go about things is extremely powerfully Venusian. Like, it's very graceful. It's full of decorum, because that's what Libra reminds me of as well. Is like, I feel like Libras are such great diplomats. They're so great at managing difficult situations or people who are kind of like rude or unpleasant. Like, a Libra just knows how to handle them. You know, they know how to be like, oh, well, thanks for coming, see you later, and just like kind of even like fight back, but in such a graceful way without ever losing their own dignity. And that's what you're giving me the vibes of, is like, people really can't catch you looking a total fool or looking like a clown or even losing your temper and screaming your head off, because keep in mind, like, Venus is, you know, not the opposite of Mars, but they're kind of dissimilar. They're different energies. They're very different. And I feel like, you know, you don't seem like the kind of person who would go into a Mars rage and just start throwing things. You seem like even if you got the worst news or someone who was treating you horribly, you'd be very like composed and you'd be like, okay, well, that's fine. All right, I'll leave then. And it's almost like with this person, again, we're not turning it into an X reading, so I'll just make this quick. But I do feel like maybe they, are saying like, yeah, I kind of wanted to upset them, and whatever I did with them, I was hoping to get a rise out of them. And it's almost fascinating to them more how they never fully got to see a rise out of you. You never lost your temper or like went crazy on them, And so I feel like they still have a lot of mystery about you, still think about you quite a lot, obviously, since they were able to break through into this reading, even though it's not a reading about them, but they made it about themselves. But getting back to the vibe of this reading specifically, we also got the travel card. So this kind of is the same vibe I was picking up on from them, where they see you as elusive. They see you as someone who's independent. They see you as someone who has your own energy, and you are not desperately trying to cling to their energy or be around them or anyone's energy. Like, I feel like, again, you're that energy where if you didn't like a party or you thought someone had bad manners or you just didn't like a vibe, you just leave. You just bounce. You just be like, sayonara, I'm out of here, bye. And I feel like you're not the type to go around being like, well, I'm leaving then. Well, if you're not gonna blah blah blah, then I'm gonna go. You just bounce. You just make your own way out. And I feel like that's because you have this inner core of self-belief, dignity, kind of like that princess we were picking up on at the beginning of the reading, who just is always composed and has excellent manners and isn't going to let anyone get under her skin, because she's a princess and she knows her worth. And I feel like a lot of you guys know your worth. You know that you're special. You know that what you have to offer is valuable. So you're not going to tolerate bad behavior from someone who doesn't appreciate it. Let's get into these final cards. We got Will-o'-the-Wisp, treasures hidden in the shadows, dances on one foot, balancing act, sky bridge, possibility for union, and fortune's wheel, luck and right timing. So again, this graceful energy that you give off. I feel like both Will-o'-the-Wisp, that reminds me of like a willow tree, which maybe it's just me, but I see willow trees as very graceful and beautiful and kind of like gliding in the wind with their leaves. And then we got dances on one foot. I feel like how you move, your physicality is just very beautiful, graceful. It's almost giving me vibes of like Guinevere from like King Arthur. You know how King Arthur and Lancelot both fought over her because she's this archetype of almost female approval and grace and beauty, and you give me that vibe. And so again, I don't know if this is your ex coming through with this skybridge possibility for a union card, but I do feel like a lot of you guys have people that fantasize about being with you in union and fantasize about, getting to have your approval and be with you because they do see you as that ultimate kind of like feminine goddess energy, this ultimately composed and beautiful embodiment of what it is to be a beautiful woman. Let's get into some astrology dice as well. So what are the astrological energies at play for pile number 4? So we got Aquarius, the moon, aka Cancer, and finally Scorpio. So we have Cancer, Scorpio, and Cancer, Aquarius, and Scorpio. So let's start off with Aquarius. So this makes sense to me because I feel like there's a lot of distance with you. You can sometimes seem a little aloof. You're not going to necessarily, like I said, lose your mind if someone doesn't like you, and that's so Aquarian. Like Aquarius really don't care what other people think of them. Everyone else will say like, oh, I don't care what people think of me. But some of us, not just Aquarius isn't the only sign that doesn't care, but I feel like they are the sign that probably does not care the most. Like, not even going to be mad about it. Just like, okay, not going to feel any type of way. But they're just like, actually like, I don't care. So anyway, what's next? Like, I feel like you have that vibe where like you are so selective about who you let emotionally affect you. And this is why, again, I wouldn't be surprised if you guys ghost sometimes, or you just like, if someone's displeasing you, you just will stop responding, you'll just stop engaging, because I feel like you don't want to waste your time. And you're not worried about what if they get mad at me? What if they get upset? What if they don't like me? You're like, I don't care, because I know my own self-worth and I'm so rooted in that. And I know what I bring to the table. So I'm not going to stress if this person doesn't like me. I'm just going to move on, because Aquarians are really ghosts. They definitely will ghost someone they don't like because they do not care. That's just how they are. Then we have the 8th house, Scorpio. And Scorpio has this powerful magnetism. Everyone knows about Scorpio's prowess and their magnetism that they give off. They obviously rule over the eighth house of sexuality, which you guys pulled the eighth house. And it's also a house that has to do with relationships, how we vibe with other people. And it's also a very powerfully intense energy. It's an intense, transformative, very magical type of energy and very sexual. So it may also just be your sexuality and the fact that people do think that maybe underneath that prim and proper vibe, there's a very strong sexual energy and a lot of sexual power, as well as having that eighth house kind of charisma. Like, I don't think Scorpios try to be charismatic. Scorpios also don't care what other people think of them, but they will get mad about it and be like, screw you. You know what I mean? But I do feel like they're not trying to be magnetic, but they just are magnetic and they're not seeking that out, but that's just how it goes. Then we also have the moon, and that rules Cancer. And Cancer is the great mother, the caretaker, the giver, very loving. And like I said, I do feel like when you're actually close to someone, you give so much of yourself. You're very kind, you're very sweet. Cancers are also very girlish, very feminine. It's literally the mother, so it's a very feminine energy. So is Scorpio, which is a water sign, also female. So there's a strong feminine energy throughout this. And especially when it comes to Cancer, very creative. A lot of Cancers have excellent aesthetics. It's water signs in general are very creative and tend to be very aesthetically oriented, and kind of rule in that space of like what makes you feel good in the moment and the vibes, the energy of something. So again, I feel like you're picky, selective about the vibes. People know that they cannot expect you to tolerate some BS, horrible situation. You just would always keep your own dignity. So anyway, I hope that resonates for you guys. That's what I have for you today. If it did resonate, please let me know in the comments. I always love getting that confirmation and hearing your thoughts. So let me know what you think. Also, make sure to like and subscribe, turn on notifications, of course. And if you want to see more of my readings, head to my Patreon. I just posted a reading all about your past lives and your love life in past lives. So what was your romantic and relationship situation in your past lives, centuries ago, and how does that affect your current love life? It's a really deep one, but we have all kinds of readings over there, some lighthearted readings, heavier readings, love readings, career, money readings, family, spirituality, every topic under the sun. Actually, this topic we did today was the 4th or 5th runner-up, so that should tell you how good the readings we do over there on Patreon are. So in the poll we did, I should say, it was the 4th or 5th runner-up in the poll we did. I know that sentence I just said made no sense without that concluding statement. But anyways, if you want to check that out and get access to all my readings, head to my Patreon. The link is underneath the timestamps in the comments, in the description, and I would love to see you there. Also, if you want to get a private one-on-one reading with me and get my undivided attention, channeling about whatever situation you would like, then head to BriarRoseTarot.com, my website. You can have me pull tarot for you, do mediumship, channel for you, read your astrology, and you get to ask me about basically whatever you want within reason, of course. And you get to choose the time length and whether it's live, pre-recorded. So there's lots of options to choose from. If you want to go do that, then head to my website, BriarRoseTarot.com, and the link for that is in my description. So thank you guys so much for watching. I am sending you all my love and light, and I'll be back again very soon with another reading. Take care, guys, and I'll see you then. Bye.